When I was 18, Ethan Hayes burst into my house and stabbed my father 18 times. As the police led him away, he smiled for the cameras. Why would I regret it? Now, there's no monster pretending to be family to hurt her anymore. From this day on, Sonny Miller is finally free. When he got out of prison, he found me broke, my resume rejected again and again, and he crushed out his cigarette. He threw himself into the DC elite, hustling his way to the top until everyone called him Mr. Hayes. After we got married, all of his passwords were my birthday. I stared at the photo album on his phone, at the pictures of a woman I didn't know. There were over 1,800 of them, and not a single one was of me. He seemed to only just remember they were there. He deleted all 1,800 photos without a change in his expression, then casually tossed the phone back to me. That's all in the past. Just pretend you never saw them. I pushed the divorce papers across the table. I said, sign them. He threw the pen down, and I said, for us, there's no divorce. Only widowhood. Ethan didn't sign. For us, there's only widowhood, no divorce. That was something we had said to each other when we first got married. He didn't even glance at the divorce papers before slamming the door on his way out. Not long after he left, a message from an unknown number appeared on my phone. You must be Sonny Miller, right? You've probably seen that he was saving my pictures back when I was still in school. Ethan loves me, not you. If you don't get out of the way now, Ethan will make you regret it later. The girl's voice was full of a naive courage that the world hadn't tainted yet. Or maybe Ethan had just protected her that well. Before I could even reply, she sent me more than a dozen photos. The girl had a perfect figure, a delicate chain wrapped just so around her waist. The large hand, resting gently on her hip, sometimes forgot to remove our wedding ring. The chain was only removed when her belly began to show. Sonny, Ethan was married to you for 3 years, and you never had a child, but he let me get pregnant with his. Don't you get it? What's the point of desperately holding on? I'm telling you, if you don't leave on your own, I'll just move into your house. We'll see then if Ethan sides with you or with me. When Ethan came home, he saw the iMessage history and the room full of shattered crystal and jade I had destroyed. He merely raised an eyebrow. Don't you have anything to explain? I asked, my ragged breaths mingling with the scent of his cigar. He let out a soft laugh, sighing as he blew a ring of smoke. She's just a kid who doesn't know any better. Why are you getting worked up over her? His tone was so dismissive. It was as if the bloody battles we fought for his rise in the DC elite had never happened to us. As if all that history belonged to him and that young girl instead. You're right. The girl doesn't know any better. I threw a report from a clinic onto the table. He immediately sat bolt upright. I added coolly. So I took the liberty of teaching her a lesson. Sonny. His hands gripped my shoulders with enough force to shatter them. My back slammed against the wall, and I smirked, enjoying the sight of his furious, bloodshot eyes. His eyes had gone red like that only twice in his life. The first time was our senior year of high school, when he saw my father dragging me by my hair to the edge of the road, my clothes torn, about to shove my head into the Mississippi. That was when he stabbed my father 18 times. The second time was now, because this girl had a miscarriage. He gripped my shoulders, demanding to know how I could be so vile. It's a rare sight, seeing Mr. Hayes so flustered. I smiled, feeling no remorse at all. You're a woman too. How could you do something like this to her? You're the one who said it. For us, there's no divorce, only widowhood. I leaned in close. So if you can't bring yourself to kill me, Mr. Hayes, I'll just have to kill you both. A drop of blood hit the floor. Only then did he notice the gash on my hand from when I was smashing the vases. He slowly released my shoulders. Good riddance, he said quietly. I never wanted that child anyway. He took my hand, gently wiping away the blood. As he pressed the antiseptic wipe to the cut, he blew on it softly, just like he always did. He had gotten used to doing that for me, whenever he cleaned my wounds. Back then, when my father beat me black and blue, all he could find was rubbing alcohol to clean my cuts. Even though he used proper antiseptic now, he was still just as careful not to hurt me. A bloody palm print appeared on his cheek. Don't. You're dirty. His face turned slightly to the side. He didn't ask if I meant the blood or if I meant him. He just called for our butler, Mr. Peterson, and handed him the first aid kit. The girl's name was Candy Vance. When I tried to dig deeper, I found nothing. I knew Ethan was protecting her. If I hadn't been so quick, I probably wouldn't have even learned her name. I confronted Ethan. You like her that much? Enough to lock down all information from me. He sighed. Sonny, what's the point of obsessing over her? I threw the divorce papers in front of him again. Sign them, and I'll stop obsessing. The papers didn't last 2 seconds in his hands. He ripped them to shreds. He tossed the pieces into the air, letting them rain down around us. I told you, for us, there's no divorce. Only widowhood. I laughed. The next second, I smashed a wine bottle over his head. Red liquid streamed down his face, and I couldn't tell if it was wine or blood. I grabbed a dagger from the table and lunged. He caught my wrist in a death grip, fighting against the pressure as I tried to drive the blade down. Ethan, we were less than an inch apart. You really think I won't do it? Both of our hands were shaking, but I refused to back down. Divorce, or one of us dies? The standoff lasted only a few more seconds. Then, with a soft chuckle, he guided my hand. He forced the dagger deep into his own shoulder. Blood splattered across my face. I told you, he gasped, I'd never let you die before me. Ethan, I snarled through clenched teeth as he let go of my hand. Go on, Sonny. Do it. I ripped the dagger out. He let out a choked grunt, and now my face was smeared with his blood. The metallic scent sent my mind reeling back to that rainy night in high school. I swayed and started to fall, but he caught me in an instant. Don't be scared. It's okay. I'm here. His hand gently stroked my cheek. I watched the blood from the gash on his forehead drip down onto my face. His eyes held no fear for his own injuries, only concern for me. On all those nights my father beat me until I was raw and bleeding. He would hold me just like this. He used his own back to shield me from my father's fists, from bottles, chairs, even a kitchen knife once. Through my father's furious shouting, he would force a grin and whisper, Don't be scared. It's okay. I'm here. We had embraced in blood and kissed in torrential rain. When love is that extreme, betrayal is all the more monstrous. I shoved him away. Don't touch me. I stumbled out of that room, away from the reek of blood. Things were quiet for a while. He kept the girl well protected. I couldn't find a single trace of her. But she was young, and eventually her impatience got the better of her. She came to find me. You've been looking for him, haven't you? I'll save you the trouble. He's with me. She was dressed in designer clothes, looking smug. Did you really think getting rid of my baby would solve all your problems? She leaned in, her smile dripping with condescension. As long as he loves me, it doesn't matter how many of my babies you get rid of. He'll just dote on me even more. He's been working extra hard to please me lately. I should thank you for the help, really. The high slit of her blouse revealed a flawless neck and the curve of her chest. It was covered in countless bruises, each one a declaration of how deeply, how completely Ethan adored this girl. She placed a hand over her flat stomach, her pride practically glowing. Such a shame. I'm pregnant again. I took a sip of my coffee without reacting as she plopped down on my brand new custom sofa, resting her chin in her hands. I heard you didn't have any children in 3 years of marriage, and you finally got pregnant with one. She looked like she just remembered a hilarious joke. And you couldn't even keep it. Sometimes, you really can't blame the man for looking elsewhere. The sound of my coffee cup slamming onto the table was followed by her sharp scream. My bodyguards watched impassively as Candy writhed on the floor, clutching her stomach as blood began to pool beneath her. Sonny Miller, you'll burn in hell for this. My bodyguards dragged her toward the door as she shrieked. Sonny, aren't you afraid of what Ethan will do to you when he finds out? I tapped my fingers lightly on the marble tabletop and said, You need to understand something. The title of Mrs. Hayes isn't something you get just by having a man's affection. Ethan came home that night. He brought dozens of men with him. They filled an entire floor of the manor. He never made such a show of force unless he was facing a serious rival. This was the first time he had ever aimed that force at me. We sat opposite ends of a long table, each of us flanked by our people. That's twice now, he said, his knuckles tapping a slow rhythm on the marble. Sonny, you owe her an apology. She was a fool who walked right into my house. If she had the nerve to show up, she should be prepared to face the consequences of her own stupidity. Half of Ethan's face was lost in shadow. I couldn't read his expression. Did you really think your wife was such a pushover that she'd do nothing when your mistress shows up at her door? A lighter flared in the dark as I lit a slim cigarette. Mr. Hayes, you need to remember that during all those years we clawed our way up in D.C., I was the one bleeding right alongside you, putting a pampered little canary like her up against me. I don't know if you're the crazy one or if she is. I placed the divorce papers in front of him again and exhaled a plume of smoke. This is your last chance. The moonlight on the marble table didn't illuminate our faces. We stared at each other through the darkness. From the very beginning, you saved me from my monster of a father. You fought your way into the big leagues for me. I lost a child for you. I bled for you. Mr. Hayes, let's just walk away clean. We don't owe each other anything more. It's the best outcome for both of us. The best outcome. Ethan's soft laugh echoed in the dark. He picked up the divorce papers. Using the flame from his lighter as he lit a cigar, he set the papers on fire and let them turn to ash. She won't appear before you again. The ashes drifted away. He stood, and with his army of men, swept out of the estate. A sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen. I doubled over, clutching my stomach. One of my men rushed to support me. Mrs. Hayes, I'm fine, I said, my voice weak. It's just an old ailment. Ever since I lost the baby, the ache in my abdomen on rainy days had never truly gone away. Not even the best specialist could fix it. Maybe because my heart was aching too, the pain was worse than ever this time. I decided to go to the hospital for a checkup. There, I stumbled upon Candy, who was screaming at Ethan in her room. Why don't you just kill her? Getting rid of a bitch like that should be as easy as crushing an ant for you. I want her dead. If you won't do it, I'll kill her myself. With that, Candy actually grabbed a dagger and tried to storm out of the room. Ethan grabbed her wrist and yanked her back hard. The tip of the blade sliced across his palm. Candy collapsed into his arms, sobbing. He cupped her face with his bleeding hand. Tears streamed from her eyes as he forced her head up and kissed her deeply. The dagger clattered to the floor, leaving only the sound of their passionate embrace in the air. Once, Ethan and I had embraced in blood. Now, Candy was kissing him in blood. The door swung open. Candy saw me. Sonny. She instantly snatched the dagger from the floor. A moment later, it clanged to the ground again. I had her by the hair, forcing her to her knees. Ethan grabbed my wrist. That's enough. Don't stoop to her level. Mr. Hayes, you're the one who refused to sign the divorce papers. I gave him a scornful look. Since you insist on having me as your wife, then I have to act the part. What? Did you think your wife was some pathetic victim anyone could push around? With a sharp crack, I slapped Candy hard across the face. Sonny, he roared. He wrenched me away from Candy. Her pathetic sobs filled the air. I fought to break free from Ethan's grip. I gave you a chance. Since you refused the divorce, don't blame me for this. A sharp pain jabbed my side. I spun around instantly and kicked Candy square in the jaw. She slammed against the wall, and the dagger she tried to stab me with went flying. Candy cried out, clutching her stomach. The area that had just barely healed was bleeding again. A sneak attack? You're asking for it. I raised my hand to strike her again, but the slap that rang out landed on my own face. Ethan stood over me, looking down. His cold eyes burned with a rage I had never seen before. I touched my cheek, feeling the split in my lip. Don't be scared. It's okay. I'm here, he murmured, cradling Candy in his arms. He let her tears soak the front of his expensive shirt. The anguish and worry in his eyes was something I had only seen once before, on the day I lost our child for him. The sunset that day was the color of blood. He had pressed my hand to his heart, his own eyes welling with tears he refused to let fall. He had forced a smile, stroking my face over and over, repeating the words he'd said 1,000 times before. Don't be scared. It's okay. I'm here. But now, he looked at me with nothing but ice in his eyes. Since you want a divorce, fine. We'll get a divorce. I suddenly started to laugh. The divorce I couldn't get even when I held a knife to his shoulder. All it took was for Candy to get a little roughed up. A sudden, sharp pain seized my abdomen. It was worse than the day I lost the baby. I doubled over, and someone brushed past my shoulder. It was Ethan, carrying Candy away. I collapsed to my knees on the floor. My bodyguards rushed in. Just before I lost consciousness, One of Ethan's men delivered a signed divorce agreement. I guess when a man is truly done with you, he moves fast. I tossed it to my bodyguard. Burn it. I've always been stubborn. When I was a kid and my dad threatened to kill me if I didn't do what he wanted, I just stared him down and dared him to do it. When I grew up, I swore I'd live and die with Ethan. And I proved it when I, 8 months pregnant, stormed a rival's headquarters with a machete to rescue him. And just now, I told him that negotiation was his last chance. He refused it. So now, for my marriage, there would be no divorce. Only widowhood. By the time I woke up, Candy had already been discharged from a hospital. She sent a file to my house. My bodyguard handed me a handwritten note from her. Her elegant script had an arrogant flourish. Do you really think Ethan still has feelings for you? Curious why he loves me and not you. You probably still don't even know who I am, do you? Surprise. I opened the file. My breath caught in my throat. I never signed the divorce papers. But Ethan and Candy's wedding was scheduled anyway. Ethan bought Candy a private island in the Pacific, a lavish purchase that he considered the least of his wedding gifts to her. Their wedding was nothing like ours had been. The Sodakin pull-tab ring he gave me became a Harry Winston diamond for her. The tattered white dress I wore became a custom-designed gown dripping with jewels for her. Everyone assumed Ethan and I had some secret, lavish wedding. But the truth was, in the 7 years after we made our vows in that tiny apartment, we were too busy fighting and bleeding to ever have a chance to declare our love to the world. Distinguished guests, Ethan himself took the microphone, unwilling to let anyone else narrate this perfect moment. Today, I want to introduce the one true jewel of my heart, The great doors burst open with a bang. Guests screamed as my people quickly secured the venue. A chandelier came crashing down, nearly crushing Candy, but Ethan shielded her with his body. She stared at me in shock. You actually followed us here. Was it really that hard to find you? I tossed a digital recorder at Ethan's feet. I gave a bitter laugh. I never knew you were such a deep thinker, Mr. Hayes. The next second, the wedding march was cut off. Instead, the speakers filled with Candy's breathless voice. Ethan, all those years I was away, did you really manage to not have a baby with that old hag? Ethan's own breathing was ragged on the recording. I'm not in the habit of sleeping with other women. Humph, you're lying. Do you think I'm a child? There was the sound of a light slap. Tell me the truth. After a contented sigh, Ethan's voice was clear, followed by the sound of a kiss. She's dirty. Listening to his own words, Ethan's brow furrowed. On the recording, Candy continued her teasing. But your wife was with you for so long. What, you think she was with someone else? Of course not, Ethan replied. His voice was punctuated by the sound of kisses. She was 8 months pregnant when she stormed our rival's compound. She miscarried right after. How'd I know if those men touched her? How'd I know if that why my son died? But maybe she really wasn't touched? Candy purred. Ethan's laugh was cold. I read their depositions. They all admitted they intended to assault her. A woman would have had no way to fight back in that situation. Candy gasped dramatically. Oh my God. So you're saying your wife, 8 months pregnant, offered herself up to be used by those men. How shameless. That's enough. Ethan roared, turning toward the sound booth. But as he went to order it shut down, he froze. The booth was manned by strangers. He frantically scanned the crowd and realized for the first time that many of the guests were unfamiliar faces. The color drained from Candy's face. She had assumed they were my people, but now it was clear neither of us knew who they were. I began to walk toward the stage. The day I rescued him, I had walked just like this, dragging a machete. I had only 10 loyal men with me, a suicide squad. We fought our way from a front gate to the main office. My men fell one by one. In the end, it was just me and his rival. He kicked me in my pregnant belly. I sliced his throat. The sunset was blood red that day as he knelt by my stretcher. It was the first time I ever saw him cry. For years after, whenever he remembered that day, he would hold me tight, his body trembling, and tell me how sorry he was. He would wake up from nightmares and lock himself in his study, smoking cigarette after cigarette until dawn. I always thought he was torturing himself with guilt. I would even hold him and comfort him, telling him it wasn't his fault. But all this time, what was really on his mind was never whether he had failed me. It was whether I had been unfaithful to him. The recording of his voice continued. Of course, it's possible she was innocent. Ethan's voice echoed from the speakers. But I secretly checked her medical reports. She can't have children anymore. She's useless to me now. A gunshot rang out, and the speaker exploded. Ethan stood there, panting, the gun in his hand, trembling. Ethan, I walked toward him one step at a time. Are you shooting because you think those words are a lie? Or because you can't even stand to hear your own disgusting thoughts out loud? Son, he didn't get my name out before my hand was around his throat. Ethan, Candy screamed and tried to intervene, but one of my men put a gun to the back of her head. I forced him backward, step by step. Those 10 men, they were with me from the very beginning. They died trying to save you. Do you have any idea what it felt like to face their parents, to see their red-rimmed eyes as they asked me where their sons were? Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. I laughed, but tears streamed down my face. I never told you any of this. I was afraid the blood I shed for you would become a source of guilt, a chain around your neck. But it turns out, all these years, you weren't thinking about the men I lost. You were wondering if I had betrayed you. I slammed him hard against the wall. A protruding hook on the wall tore open the old scar on his shoulder. Fresh blood gushed out, covering his neck and my hands. Ethan, Candy shrieked. Ethan's gaze shifted to her. There was no fear in his eyes, only a strange tenderness. Maybe, he said, his voice raspy, I really did misunderstand you. But Sonny, I've always wanted children. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. I dreamed of you and me having a child, of having a happy little family. I would have been a good father. I would never have let our child suffer the way you did. It would have been like a second chance for us, a way to erase our own regrets through them. I just stared at him. I held up a medical report. But you already killed your own child. The date on the report was from the day he demanded a divorce. His bloody thumbprint smeared across the paper. Did you think I went to the hospital that day just to confront your little girlfriend? I closed my eyes. No, I went because I was already showing signs of a miscarriage. I'd spent years getting my body healthy again. That was our miracle baby. And when you shoved me, that was it. The baby was gone for good. Ethan's brow tightened, but there was no regret in his eyes. No surprise. He just let the report flutter to the floor. Then he said, his voice devoid of emotion, then let's get the divorce. A clean break. It's the best outcome for us. The butt of my gun slammed into his forehead. I snatched his pistol from his waistband, gave it an expert spin, and pressed the barrel under his chin. I laughed, my face smeared with his blood. You still don't get me after all these years? I told you that you already had your last chance. For us, there is no divorce, only widowhood. It's too late to talk about the best outcome now. His hand, gripping mine, trembled. The wound in his shoulder was draining his strength. Slowly, he let go. He smiled, and for a second, it was the same gentle smile from our youth. All right, he said softly. Kill me. I nearly crushed the gun in my hand. I had done everything I could to force him into a real fight, to make him give me a reason for it all. I needed to understand why he betrayed me. I needed a reason for the last 10 years of my life. But I was learning that true heartbreak isn't a dramatic, soul-tearing battle between two lovers. It's when one person is tearing their heart out and the other would rather die than have anything more to do with them. And all of this was for another woman. A replacement. Someone who had never bled for him. I cocked the gun. My voice was ice, cutting through Candy's hysterical screams. In that case, I'll grant your wish. No, Ethan. A shot rang out from behind us. The bodyguard holding a gun on Candy suddenly collapsed, clutching a bleeding arm. Candy's eyes lit up. Reinforcements. Ethan had clearly wanted to give Candy a fairy tale wedding. His men had been delayed, navigating the fantasy-like structures he'd had built for her. Now, they had arrived, and our forces were in a standoff. With her back up here, Candy's arrogance returned. Do you want to know why Ethan wasn't surprised about your miscarriage? Shut up. Ethan roared, and Candy clamped her mouth shut, looking wounded. Ethan held up a hand, stopping his men from advancing on me. He clutched his bleeding shoulder and gave me a smile that was like a ghost of his youth. Let's stop this here. You can go. I promise no one will stop you. When you get back to the States, none of this will affect you in any way. I seized on a key point. Is that a threat? You're trying to force me to stand by and watch you get married? Sorry, Mr. Hayes, but I don't make a habit of being cheated on. Ethan sank to one knee, a pool of blood spreading around him. His men rushed to his side, quickly dressing the wound. Forget it, he said. I never wanted you to find out like this. But since you know, he raised a hand. A bodyguard helped him out of his tuxedo jacket and tossed it into the pool of blood. Then we'll call it off. As he canceled the wedding, Candy cried out in protest. Sonny, you bitch. You really think he has any feelings for you? Why don't you think hard about the name of the man who kidnapped him all those years ago? Shut her up, Ethan commanded. One of his men immediately clamped a hand over Candy's mouth. But I pressed my gun to that man's temple. In that moment of hesitation, Candy shoved his hand away. I'm his daughter. Candy was the daughter of the man who had kidnapped Ethan. You think Ethan was really kidnapped? She shrieked. That's hilarious. He would never let himself get caught in a situation like that. The whole thing was a setup for you. He knew from the start that those men were going to assault you. You bitch. Did you really think he ever loved you? The butt of my gun crashed against her skull. She screamed, clutching her bleeding forehead. I just looked at Ethan. Don't you have anything to say? I thought he would offer some explanation, but he didn't. All he gave me was a sigh. I had my reasons for what happened back then. All this time, I had believed that Ethan and I were an unbreakable team. But between his calm admission and Candy's shrieking, I finally understood the truth. Ethan had entered the DC Elite for my sake, it was true. And as I fought beside him, at first, he was happy. But he slowly realized I was just as decisive, just as ruthless as he was. Sometimes, he even had to rely on my connections to succeed. For a man like him, love is a prize, but his career is his kingdom. When your lover starts attracting more attention from powerful people than you do, she stops being your partner and becomes your rival. And how do you stop your rival from becoming a threat? You ruin her. You destroy her reputation. You make sure you're the only one she can ever rely on again. When he decided to stage that kidnapping, to set that trap for me, he was already prepared for the fact that we might never have children. He loved me, but he also thought I was tainted. Tainted by something he himself had orchestrated. He feared me. He was wary of me, but he had loved me. That's why he wouldn't agree to the divorce. He felt guilty. All those nights he spent alone in his study, he wasn't just wondering if I had been unfaithful. He was trying to figure out how to keep me under his control. And then there was Candy, the daughter of his dead partner. He felt guilty about that, too. So he was trying to compensate her in any way he could. Candy was nothing like me. She was clean. She was infatuated. I laughed through my tears. Ethan, after I rescued you, what were you thinking? I was sorry, he said. Were you? I aimed the gun at his head, my eyes burning with rage. Then you can go to hell. The gun went off, the shot going wide as he grabbed my wrist. Candy's shriek echoed through the hall. Stop it. Sonny, you bitch. Our bodyguards clashed. Ethan and I fought with no quarter given. He knocked the gun from my hand, and I went for his throat. I took a dagger and reopened the very scars he had once gotten protecting me. He targeted the old scars I had from fighting for him. Blood splattered across both our faces. We fought until his wounds tore open and I was completely exhausted. We finally stopped, collapsing to the floor. Candy was huddled in a corner, watching in terror. Through our ragged breaths, he was the first to rise. I reached for the dagger with the last of my strength, but he kicked it away. He lifted me up and set me down gently against a wall. The first aid kit that had been for him was now being used on me. He poured antiseptic on my wounds, blowing on them softly. As he wrapped the gauze tightly around my arm, I turned my head away. Sonny, he looked down, a bead of blood clinging to his eyelashes, a look both dangerous and alluring. How'd we end up like this? The antiseptic stung my skin, and he quickly bent down to blow on the cut again. I can't find the other stuff. Be good now, just bear with it for a second. Be good, bear with it. If we weren't in the middle of this blood-soaked travesty of a wedding, I might have thought I was 18 again, that my boy was comforting me after another beating from my father. He'd be cleaning my wounds with alcohol, whispering softly, be good, bear with it. Just wait a little longer, Sonny. I'll get you out of here. I'll take you somewhere no one can ever hurt you again. I'll do it even if it kills me. I opened my eyes. The boy was a man now. He was still tending to my wounds. Only now. He was the one who had caused them. Ethan, did you know you have a problem with your reproductive system? The hand tending to my arm froze. I gave a bitter smile. Our 2 children, they were probably the only chances you were ever going to have in your entire life. He frowned. What are you talking about? The medical report was a fake, I told him. I just didn't want to wound your pride. There's nothing wrong with me. The cotton swab at his hand snapped in two. I stood up and glanced at Candy, still cowering in the corner. So, that girl you got pregnant twice. Were those babies really yours? Ethan was speechless. I walked away. I am tired, Ethan. I'm done fighting with you. I left just like that, because I knew he wouldn't be able to resist looking into it. And when he did, he would find his real medical report. And he would find the man Candy was actually in love with. Soon enough, a video was sent to my phone. It showed Candy, dragged by her hair to a riverbank, her hands tied behind her back. The adoration for Ethan was gone from her eyes, replaced by pure hatred. How could I ever love you? If it wasn't for your stupid plan, my father never would have died at that bitch's hands. I thought you were powerful because you were strong, but you're so pathetic you're even afraid of your own wife. You're useless. An idiot. Ethan just lifted a hand. A bodyguard immediately threw her into the churning river. The raging water swept Candy away. A storm was breaking, as heavy as the one on the night he killed my father. Ethan dialed a number he had called countless times. As always, the call didn't go through. He was blocked. He tapped the screen a few times, then dropped the phone on the ground. He glanced back at the hidden camera. Rain streamed down his face, making him look for a moment like the boy he used to be. He gave the camera a pale, bitter smile. After everyone was gone, he walked, step by step, into the river. The current swallowed him whole. It took him, and it took the boy I once loved with him. When the police found his phone, his last text message was made public. It was for me. Sonny, I'm sorry. I stood by the river under an umbrella, watching his men leave offerings for him. Then I turned and walked away without a word. My marriage was over. I was widowed, not divorced.